Right.
And then it's up to the companies to preserve it. And if they don't, they could be in trouble if there's a later lawsuit. They've been warned, and now they're destroying.
The preservation letter arrived on a Thursday. It opened with the kind of language you expect from lawyers: formal, deliberate, careful. You have an immediate legal duty to preserve all materials of all kinds within your possession, custody, or control that may be relevant in any way to the claims or defenses. This duty includes not only you, but also your family members. That's what the document said. What it meant was far simpler. We don't trust what happened out there, and we're coming for answers.
It appears that the family of the deceased Mississippi teen Nolan Wells is about to file a major lawsuit, and they responded last night to a narrative from one of Nolan's purported friends. And there is another one of Nolan's friends who also took legal action against what he claims is misinformation. There is a lot to get into, and we're going to talk about it right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. I think we just got some major signs that Nolan Wells' family is about to take legal action, a lawsuit. And also, they did an interview with my colleague Chris Cuomo last night, which puts a lot of this into perspective. We got to talk about it too. And plus, there is reporting that a friend of Nolan's is taking legal action against what he claims is false information about him.
So before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Project Cold Case. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. This is the case of Nolan Wells, 18 years old, college student, football player, from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. On the 4th of July weekend, he went with a group of friends to Horn Island, a remote barrier island off the Mississippi coast. No commercial development, no roads, no way to get there except by boat. At some point that day, Nolan disappeared. He was reported missing that night. A massive search launched. 2 days later, on July 6th, his body was found. And what happened to him between boarding a boat and being found dead remains a question no one seems to be able to answer.
About him. So remember what we're talking about here. 18-year-old Nolan Wells, right? From Ocean Springs, Mississippi, was a college student, football player. July 4th weekend, he went with a group of friends to Horn Island, this barrier island off the Mississippi coast. It's remote, right? It's no commercial development there. You can only access it through a boat. And at some point, he disappeared. He was reported missing that night. A massive search was launched, and 2 days later, on July 6th, his body was found in the island. But what happened to him remains a question that no one seems to be able to answer.
At least not publicly. What we know now is that the family has moved from grief to preparation. They're about to file a major lawsuit. They've already filed subpoenas. Not just one, but multiple targeting TikTok, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Meta, Life360.
We don't know that for sure.
So we talked about this yesterday. I'm going to bring it up again. Nolan's mother, Christine, has appeared to file these subpoenas for all these records from TikTok, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Meta, Life360. And they're part of this legal case regarding the estate of Nolan Wells. She appears to be the administrator. And these subpoenas are seeking account information, subscriber information, usernames, phone numbers, IP addresses, communications, photos.
No cause of death. No manner of death. They're waiting on the state medical examiner's report, including toxicology. The body the family received was missing portions of the throat and neck. Not unusual, we're told, because of testing. But the red discoloration on the back of the head, that could be decomposition, or it could be blunt force injury. The body doesn't bruise like that after death. So 2 different ways to look at it. 2 different ways to explain what happened to Nolan Wells. No one saw anything. But the family isn't waiting. They're conducting their own investigation, led by civil rights attorney Ben Crump. They've sent preservation notices to the families of Nolan's friends, to investigative bodies, and even to a judge whose son was reportedly with Nolan that day. A judge. That's significant. When you're sending preservation letters to a sitting judge, you're not just covering your bases. You're signaling that no one is off limits. And then there's Bart Edmondson Jinker.
Trayston Shepard, who we've talked about before, purportedly Nolan's friend, spoke on the Officer Tatum YouTube show, and he was previously been interviewed by other outlets. He denied having anything to do with Nolan's death. On the Officer Tatum show, he said that Nolan's mom got on TV, claimed she didn't know him.
They're seeking account information, subscriber details, usernames, phone numbers, IP addresses, communications, photos, everything. They want to know who was talking to whom, what was said, what was deleted.
If he knows Trayston. Elmore said, "No, I don't. Just because you park your vehicle in someone's yard doesn't mean that
His answer? No, I don't. Just because you park your vehicle in someone's yard doesn't mean that they have to know you. Two narratives. One family that says they don't know this person. One young man who says he was Nolan's best friend. The gap between those two statements is not just confusing. It's a canyon. No one saw anything. The family's independent autopsy returned inconclusive results.
From the state.
One of the other legal developments is you have this apparent friend of Nolan Wells, Bart Edmondson Jr. And apparently he has gotten caught in the crossfire by some online sleuths. Some have speculated that he had a connection with this young woman that Dave and I were talking about before, the one that Nolan was purportedly talking to, maybe stayed on the island with, that they were romantically linked. His attorney...
He and Nolan met in 9th grade. That Nolan was his best friend. That their friend group is mixed race. He cried on camera. He seemed genuine. The YouTuber who hosted him, Brandon Tatum, later said, "I don't know why a young man would say that he's friends and literally be emotional when he talked about Nolan. I mean, he literally cried and teared up off camera, and I felt like it was very genuine." Then Nolan's father, Elmore Wells, was asked directly if he knows
Not
Tristan.
the young lady. And that is the point. Edmondson is legally fighting those he claims are spreading misinformation about him. In fact, in a statement to Law and Crime, I'm going to read this to you. It says, quote, "After a week of egregiously false and defamatory accusations against Bart Edmondson Jr., accusations which resulted in credible death threats now being investigated by the FBI, the Edmondson family has released a statement addressing their son's knowledge of and
What was
cooperation."
hidden? Here's where it gets complicated. One of Nolan's purported friends, Tristan Shepard, went on a YouTube show and denied having anything to do with Nolan's death. He said Nolan's mom got on TV and claimed she didn't know him. He said that couldn't be further from the truth.
"Recent targeted attacks on our son, Bart Jr., now make our silence impossible. Hundreds of Mississippi Gulf Coast residents journeyed out to Horn Island to celebrate the holiday on the 4th of July. Home from college, Bart Jr. was among them. He piloted his own boat to Horn Island and piloted his own boat home. When a nearby boat suffered a mechanical malfunction on the
Another
afternoon..."
one of Nolan's purported friends. He's taken legal action too. He's fighting back against what he calls pervasive
mechanical
defamation.
malfunction on the afternoon of the 4th, which is what we were just talking about before, Bart Jr. gave advice and direct aid to the distressed vessel. As part of this, he boarded the distressed vessel, removed its transom plug, got back onto his boat, and towed the distressed vessel for a short distance. These actions allowed water that had accumulated on the distressed vessel to drain. Bart Jr. believes that more than 20 passengers were
His
spread
attorney
across...
released a statement saying, "After a week of egregiously false and defamatory accusations against Bart Edmondson Jr., accusations which resulted in credible death threats now being investigated by the FBI, the Edmondson family has released a statement addressing their son's knowledge of and cooperation in the Nolan Wells investigation." The statement goes on to detail Bart Jr.'s version of
freely
events.
and fully cooperated with law enforcement investigating the tragedy. He sat for interviews, answered all of the questions he was asked, and shared all of his recollection from July 4th, 2026. Bart Jr. also compiled a list of potential witnesses. Goes on to say he allowed his phone to be viewed and shared, requested photographs and videos from that day with law enforcement. He also permitted the inspection of his boat and GPS device. At no point in this process has Bart Jr.
He piloted his own boat to Horn Island. He piloted it home. When a nearby boat suffered mechanical failure, he gave advice and direct aid. He boarded the distressed vessel, removed the transom plug to let water drain, and towed it for a short distance.
That Bart Jr. is a suspect, that he caused or contributed to Nolan's death, or that he is involved in a cover-up of Nolan's death. It is a toxic combination.
He says more than 20 passengers were spread across the two boats. He sat for interviews. He let law enforcement view his phone.
I want to jump on something you just said. Even if it was accidental drowning, and I talked about yesterday, there's reports that he might have been heavily intoxicated. No one saw anything? All those people. No one saw anything. No one helped to jump in.
He let them inspect his boat and GPS device. He was never identified as a suspect, yet thousands of online strangers accused him of causing or contributing to Nolan's death. They shared pictures of his home, his address, his family's work information. They called him a killer.
I'm stuck on.
Isn't it just as crazy to have all those people there and not one person sees an attack, an act of physical violence against someone who apparently was popular amongst the whole group? Not one video. No one has alleged a thing.
A group of friends, multiple boats, more than 20 people on that island. A young man who was popular, who was surrounded by people, who was allegedly intoxicated, but still able to move, to talk, to interact. and not one person saw what
Lawsuit.
happened to him.
In what capacity? Against who? And what would be the claims?
It could be a wrongful death action. Remember, when you prosecute someone for a murder or homicide, you need to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. But if you are moving ahead with a lawsuit based on wrongful death or battery, you only need to prove it with a preponderance of the evidence. Is it more likely than not that it occurred?
No one saw anything. Now Bart Ginder's family is suing for defamation. They've already sent a cease and desist letter to one online influencer, a woman named Kimberly Lee, who they say originated many of the falsehoods. His attorney put it bluntly, if you really had something to do with this, if you had something to hide, I don't know if you'd be filing a lawsuit where all this could potentially get exposed. That's the counterintuitive logic. When you sue for defamation, you open yourself to discovery. You open yourself to depositions, to document production, to everything you claim you want to hide. So the fact that Bart Ginder is initiating legal action, that suggests confidence. It suggests he has nothing to fear from the truth. But here's the question that keeps circling back. If nothing happened, if this was truly an accidental drowning, then why are two distinct legal fronts already forming? Why is the family preparing a wrongful death lawsuit while one of the friends prepares a defamation lawsuit? No one saw anything. Why are subpoenas flying before the criminal investigation is complete? Because no one saw anything. That's the part that sticks, the part that former state attorney Dave Aronberg called impossible. Not one video. Not one witness coming forward to say, I saw him struggle, I saw him fall, I saw someone push him. Nothing. Unless, of course, law enforcement has all that information and is simply not releasing it. Unless they're sitting on multiple statements about an attack. Unless they have people who saw Nolan drowning but are holding that back to protect the investigation. That's possible. But in a case like this, a case that has taken on a life of its own online, with theories and speculation and accusations flying in every direction, transparency would be the only thing that quiets the noise. And right now, there is no transparency, just a family demanding answers, friends denying involvement, lawyers circling, subpoenas being filed, and a young man's body lying on a table in a medical examiner's office, the official report still pending. What happens next? The criminal investigation goes to a grand jury. The autopsy results will be released eventually. The toxicology report will come, and then we'll know whether this was what it appears to be or whether there's something else entirely. But here's what we already know somewhere in the cloud. Stored in metadata on servers owned by multi-billion-dollar tech companies, there are messages, there are photos, there are location histories, there are timestamps. This isn't the 1970s. Deleted files can be recovered. Empty phones can be analyzed. What happened on Horn Island on July 4, 2026 is already recorded somewhere. It's just a matter of who gets to see it first. Here's what you can do. Go to the Mississippi Attorney General's website and look up the public filings related to the estate of Nolan Wells. Read the preservation letters for yourself. The language is careful, deliberate, legal. But beneath the formalities is a family saying what they've been saying since the beginning. We want answers. We're going to leave you with one question. If 20 people were on that island and Nolan Wells died and no one saw anything, then what are they all protecting?